Good morning. I am back in the book of Acts talking to you through the internet. Amazing. And we're still with Paul in the 25th chapter. So Paul is hanging out. It's been 2 years that he's been under house arrest by the governor Felix in Cesarea. So he's in Cesarea, and hey, Linda, and his accusers are in Jerusalem. And so Felix is replaced as governor by a man named Festus. Thank you for joining me. And so, anyway, Felix and Fester are real names. One is the governor who is leaving, one is the one who is coming here. And so now that Festus is in Caesarea, as with all people who take on new duties, he's like, yeah, let me see what I can clear off my deck and get rid of that's just been hanging out while Felix hasn't been attending to work. I know that's the way I feel whenever I get to someplace. But Festus is an honorable man from what William Barclay says. And he only does this job for 2 years. But anyway, and Paul has already been under house arrest for 2 years. So this has been going on a while. Anyway, I'm in the 25th chapter, and I am starting at verse 1. It says, 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take up the duties as governor, he went up to Jerusalem. The high priests and the leaders renewed their vendetta against Paul, and they asked Festus if he would please do them a favor by sending Paul to Jerusalem to respond to their charges. A lie, of course. They had revived their old plot to set an ambush and kill him along the way. Festus answered that Caesarea was the proper jurisdiction for Paul, and that he himself was going back there in a few days. You're perfectly welcome, he said, to go back with me and then accuse him of whatever you think he's done wrong. About 8 to 10 days after Festus returned to Caesarea, the next morning he took his place in the courtroom and had Paul brought in. The minute he walked in, the Jews had come down from Jerusalem, were all over him, hurling the most extreme accusations, none of which they could prove. Then Paul stood and said simply, I've done nothing wrong against the Jewish religion or the temple or Syria or Caesar, period. Festus, though he wanted to get on the good side of the Jews, he said, how would you like to go up to Jerusalem and let me conduct a trial there for you? Paul answered, I'm standing at this moment before Caesar's bar of justice, where I have a perfect right to stand, and I'm going to keep standing here. I've done nothing wrong to the Jews, and you know it as well as I do. If I've committed a crime and deserve death, name the day. I can face it. But if there's nothing to their accusations, you know there isn't, and you know there isn't. Nobody can force me to go along with their nonsense. We fooled around here long enough. I appeal to Caesar. Festus huddled with his advisor briefly and then gave his verdict. You've appealed to Caesar, you'll go to Caesar. That's a big jump. So, Paul, who again is a very intelligent man and a Roman citizen, which is the reason that he is still alive. As I thought about this, I just thought about the inequities that we still face in our world, but the inequities of the Roman world of the time in which Jesus lived were mammoth. If Paul had have simply been not a Roman citizen, he would have been dead by now, because the problem that the Jewish authorities in Jerusalem are having with Paul is a religious matter. And since it's not a civil matter, the Festus is not willing to release Paul, the Roman citizen, to the justice of the Jewish folk. For again, it's a religious thing. And Paul has placed himself under the protection of Rome and said, I am not doing anything illegal. I'm doing something that they don't like. I'm inviting everyone into this faith relationship with God. And don't forget that that's exactly why they want to get rid of him, because he's opening the doors wide to this relationship with God. And the Jews who have created their world, the little empire of here's who's chosen by God, do not want to hear about the doors opening up to the faith relationship with God. And if you think that's wild and crazy, just know that it always happens. It's what Martin Luther tried to do when he tried the reforms within the Catholic Church in the 15th century, to say that everyone was saved by faith alone. And the Catholic Church says, no, you need to go to our confession. You need to pay our money. Only that way can you get right with God. And again, over the centuries, we do it now in terms of who is in and who is out. And here's Paul. Actually, Jesus was the first one killed in this opening up the relationship with God. And Paul is the next in line. But Paul is a Roman citizen, and so he has protection. And Festus, as he comes in, he's smart enough to know that there's been a plot against Paul, that if he sends him on the road to Jerusalem, more than likely Paul's going to get killed on the road. And so he says, let's just all meet in Cesarea and let's hash this thing out under my protection. And Paul says, you've got nothing against me. If you're ready to kill me, I'm good to go. Me and God are tight if that's what you got to do. But you have no grounds to do it on. And Paul's strength and his ability is amazing. And particularly, as I said last time, for me, it's important to remember that during those 2 years of house arrest, he was continuing to have a conversation with the churches that he had begun in Galatia and Ephesus and Philippi. So all of those places we know because we have those letters, but probably there were other communities as well that he was writing letters to and getting answers back and trying to help them to understand that truly God opened wide the doors, that there was no barrier such as circumcision to this relationship with God. All you needed was your heart and your mind and your soul to open to God and to that loving relationship. Hey, Dan. It's good to see you guys this morning. Anyway, so as Paul continues to be incredibly intelligent and will not be forced into a corner that is wrong, so understand that the Jews had no power to kill anyone. Their legal system did not allow for a verdict of death. And so since it didn't allow for a verdict of death, then the Jews could not get rid of him. They could stir up a crowd and have him stoned to death, but they were just going to assassinate him at this point. But Rome does have the power, which again is why Jesus went before Pilate to be killed. So Paul is standing before Festus, who is the current governor of Cesarea, and apparently they change quite often. And Festus is just trying to keep on everybody's good side. He's new in the saddle. He doesn't want to really upset the Jewish folks because Jerusalem is a big, huge part of his governance area, and he wants them to stay happy and to stay calm and to not start a riot. And so he's trying to keep two groups, well, the group of the Jews happy, and Paul, his rights defended, because Paul is a Roman citizen. And so Paul has given up the idea that he is going to be able to find justice in Caesarea. And so in this next section after we finish today, Paul is going to be on his way to Rome, which is one of the things he wanted to do as a missionary, not so much as a prisoner, but it's where his life leads. And, I just find it so interesting that Paul has this vision of going to Rome and thinks, yeah, that's a great idea. You and me, God, let's go to Rome. And he gets there probably in a way that he did not imagine. Welcome to my life. I just think people who are trying to listen and respond and be God's people in this world, God often moves through our lives in ways that we do not expect and ways that we could not imagine would happen. But in fact, being open to God is what Paul is talking about, that relationship with God. And one of the reasons that you and I worship as freely and as openly we do in this generation was because Paul not only continued to be articulate and intelligent and start churches that said our faith relationship with God is through our desire for relationship and not anything else. Now, there's ways that we should behave once we accept that relationship. But that relationship is open to us. And so Paul really consolidated that concept in his mission work and then put it down in writing in his letters. And even, like I said, Martin Luther, who did reform movement within the Catholic Church in the 1500s, where he got his ideas were in Paul's letter to the church at Rome. And so our book of Romans. And so all of this is Paul's power to stand up to injustice. One of the reasons he has the power to do that is because he's a Roman citizen. But also he's fearless. He's throwing this in the governor's face saying, all right, if you want to send me up there, which there's no reason to do because they've got no proof and no real charge against me, and it's been 2 years, then go ahead and kill me. But don't believe that this is, that I'm going away. I'm sneaking away quietly. I'm not. And so, the other thing that you could think about, or at least I think about, is as we've read through the book of Acts, there's a number of times that Paul has escaped from jail miraculously, that he has prayed and cuffs have been unleashed and doors have been opened. And yet here he's been under house arrest, which is, I think, pretty minimal security. And he's been able to write letters and do what he needed to do. But he's never left Cesarea at this point. And so him and God seem to have an agreement that he can stay in one place. He doesn't have to continue traveling from place to place to place to place to tell them the good news. And uses his literary ability, his ability to write letters. And that's exactly what he's done. So even though he's been in Cesarea for 2 years, no time has been wasted in terms of his evangelism. And now that Festus is trying to figure out what to do with the mess that Felix left, again, this is not unusual for somebody to have to do. So as he figures out with the mess that Felix left, he ends up saying, okay, to Caesar you will go. Of course, it's not that simple at Caesar, but that's for the following weeks, you guys. So thank you so much for listening to me babble. And I am so happy to see you guys watching with me. You take care. Enjoy this beautiful day. It's another gorgeous summer day. I've already been out on my walk. How about you? Take care. Bye.